Fresno is a city that doesn't get the respect and mention as it should. Fresno is one of the cities in California that gets overlooked because it's not in the region of well-known places that are in Northern California or Southern California. Fresno is in the middle of California and is about 3 to 4 hours from places like San Francisco and about 3 to 4 from LA. Many gangs call Fresno home, like Crips and Bloods, from many different races to different Latino gangs. But this episode, I'm going to get into the Fresno Bulldogs, from what they done in Fresno to incidents in the pen.
Bro, I'm at the Ginger Hotel, dog. Okay. I'm at the Ginger, bro, them Bulldogs, bro. Them niggas, bro, them Bulldogs shot me, dog. Them niggas from College Street, dog. Them niggas shot me, dog. They shot me in my leg, dog. I'm on Jensen, bro. Days in, dog. Slide, dog. This shit janky, dog. Nigga, I'm getting out of Fresno, dog. I'm my mama, boy. I ain't janky, bro. Come on now.
As you can see, Fresno Bulldogs are known in Fresno for putting in work, and have been for decades, to the streets to the pen, making a name for themselves. They have many different cliques and branches in Fresno, making them a big powerhouse gang in that region. But with being a powerhouse gang, you gain a lot of rivals, and they have a long list of those. The Bulldogs once had a good relationship and alliance with Nuestra Familia, once being called F14, which stands for Fresno 14. The Nuestra Familia is a Latino prison gang that represents the Latinos in Northern California. The Nuestra Familia are a big threat in the pen and in the streets throughout Northern California. Latino gangs in the streets of Northern California operate under the name Nortenos, or Nortes for short. There are many branches and cliques of Nortes in almost every city in Northern California. Once Nortes hit the pen, they're aligned with the Nuestra Familia. You will see many Northerners use the number 14 because the letter N is the 14th letter in the alphabet. The color red is also associated with them. The Northerners' biggest rival would be the Latinos in Southern California, known in jail as the Mexican Mafia. This gang is also ruthless to the pen, to the streets. The gangs on the street associated with the Mexican Mafia are the Sureños. The Sureños are all over Southern California, with hoods and many cliques in almost every city. They even have some hoods in Northern California. The letter M is the 13th letter in the alphabet, so that's why you see many gangs that are under the umbrella of the Mexican Mafia use the number 13 in their hoods. Their color of choice would be blue. With the Nuestra Familia and the Mexican Mafia being fierce rivals and having intense battles. The Latinos from Fresno being a part of the Nuestra Familia as the F14 will automatically become rivals with the Mexican Mafia in the pen and the Sureños in the streets, but they will gain another rival. The F14 will have a huge fallout with the Nuestra Familia, causing them to separate themselves and become their own gang. This fallout will cause a war in prison, and this beef still goes on today. F14 will separate themselves and become known as the Bulldogs. They will still keep the color red, but they will adopt the name and the apparel from Fresno State University as their identity. To be a Bulldog, you will have to have a lot of heart, because when you hit the pen, they have to face two powerhouse gangs in their race, in the Nuestra Familia and the Mexican Mafia, who both have major numbers in the prison system. With that being said, I'm going to get into some cases of Bulldog members in the streets, as well as their robberies in the pen. May 30th, 2001. Bulldogs and their rivals, 6 Deuce Diamond Crips, will bump heads in an apartment complex in Fresno. Edmundo Rodriguez and his brother Ernesto, both Bulldog members, will get into a fight with Maurice Woods and other Crips. Ernesto will be knocked out. He will be later taken to another Bulldog member's house. Edmundo and Ernesto and other Bulldogs will plot for revenge. Later that night, they plotted to go to Trayvon Polk's home and put in work, because they believe Polk's home was where the Crips came from. Midnight, May 31st, 2001. Edmundo and Ernesto and another man enter Polk's apartment. Polk and his niece were inside. It was a brief struggle and Polk was shot. He will lose his life. Edmundo and Ernesto were identified and placed to the crime from being there earlier in the altercation that they had with the Crips. They were heard earlier saying that they would get even. Edmundo Rodriguez will receive 40 to life, and Ernesto Rodriguez received life as well. The next case is about Johnny Luna, a Bulldog member who took out a supposed Serrano member. October 8th, 2001, Juan Corona and his friend Eduardo and Eduardo's brother Jose were standing in front of Juan's house. A white Ford would pass by several times, yelling at the three. A man would later walk toward the three and yell out, "What up, dog?" a term used by the Bulldogs, and fired several shots. Eduardo would be hit and he would lose his life. Juan would be shot, but he would survive. After the shooting, a witness would tell police what car he seen the man come from, and that he heard shooting and seen a man run into a white car. Johnny Luna would be later picked up by Laura Taylor and Josh Mata. He would tell them he had some words and an altercation with some scraps, a diss to Serranos. The next morning, Grace Gomez got a call from Luna. He told her that him and his cousin shot some scraps because they were in Bulldog's turf. She later recorded another convo they had, where he admitted to the shooting. Johnny Luna was later picked up that day. Juan Corona will identify Luna in court. Johnny Luna was sentenced to 25 to life. Bulldogs beef with a long list of gangs in Fresno. I mentioned the beef with Crips and Serranos in Fresno. So the next two cases I'm going to get into involves their beef with the Norte gangs. Years before the incident on March 4th, 2014, Richard Melendez, a member of the Bulldogs, bumped heads with a man named Steven in school, who was a Norte. Both crews met after school and fought. Steven crew outnumbered the Bulldogs, so they got the best of them. March 4th, a few years later, Steven and his friend Brian were at a festival. They would get disrespected by Bulldog members. They would leave because they were outnumbered. They would go to a friend named Oscar's house. They would come back to the festival with more people. The group of Nortes would be pulled over near the festival, and the Bulldogs would see this and diss them and their hood, and throw up bees for Bulldogs. Steven would see Richard in the crowd dissing them, and yell out, "That's why you got beat up," referring to the incident years before. Police would let them go and leave the scene after that. Richard would challenge Steven to a fight in the street. Richard then shortly lifted his shirt, showing his gun. Steven and the group would once leave again. The Nortes went to Oscar's house again, but all eventually left to drop one of them off. Brian was the driver, and Steven was the passenger. Brian would tell the group he think they were being followed. He would pull over. As he pulled over, a car pulled along the side of them and began to fire. Brian would try to get away, but he crashed the car into a pole. Steven, Taylor, and Anthony, who were all in the car, got out and ran. A man named Julian was working security in the area. He seen a tan car flee the scene and run a red light. He would see Steven, Taylor, and Anthony running as he arrived to the scene. He seen Brian slumped over. Brian was shot in the head, and he was lose his life. Steven would go to the police department, and he told police he went to school with the shooter. He gave the shooter's name, description, and picked him out of photographs officers showed him. Richard would be later picked up at his grandma's house, where his girlfriend would tell the police where he hid his gun and that he always has one. And she confirmed to the police where his phone was. Richard will also have text messages talking about the incident in his phone. Anthony and Taylor would identify Richard at trial as the shooter. Richard Melendez was sentenced to 25 to life. On January 1st, 2015, Ray Pinyon, a Bulldog member, and his girlfriend Erica were in their apartment with her sister, her cousin, and 3 of her nieces. One of Erica's nieces, Wendy, walked to the front door, and a man bolted in with a gun. The man with the gun had on a hoodie and a bandana over his face. He was with 2 other men. The man with the hoodie and the bandana would fall off, and she recognized him as Juan Orozco, who lived in apartments nearby. Juan began to shoot at Ray, who was sitting in a chair nearby. Ray would fall, and the man would run out the door. Erica spoke with the police and told them that it was Juan, and that he was a member of the Nortenos. She told him that her boyfriend Ray was a bulldog and that the gangs were rivals. Ray would tell police that he blacked out and that he couldn't identify the shooter. But everyone else in the house, including Erica, her sister, her cousin, and her nieces, will identify the shooter and say that it was Juan. Juan Orozco will receive 25 to life. Lastly, I'm going to bring up incidents involving the Bulldogs in the prison system and what they went through and what they face. I'm going to detail some things in the 2000s with the Bulldogs getting into it with the Northerners, the Southerners, and also the Whites, due to them having an alliance with the Southerners. In 2003, 2 Bulldogs will take the life of a Southerner. The Southerners will respond by inciting a riot at Pleasant Valley State Prison. On May 7, 2008, the Northerners attacked the Bulldogs. A week later, the Bulldogs would be attacked by the Southerners. This will result in over 40 people fighting. The Bulldogs will be placed in another building by the jail officials. On August 2nd of 2008, the Southerners and Whites teamed up in an attack against the Bulldogs. Whites and Northerners and Southerners refused the program with the Bulldogs, and the Bulldogs would move to another unit again. At Corcoran in 2008, many Bulldogs were getting caught with pokers. They had to defend themselves against the attacks from the Southerners. They were also being jumped by white inmates, as the beef was at an all-time high. At Calipatria State Prison, Bulldogs and Southerners were clashed often, causing fights and stabbings. This would be a bloody time in California prisons, causing endless violence, what still goes on today. This will conclude this episode. If you haven't already, check out my previous videos. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.